awakening to me is like closing the gap. And what I mean by that is like there is this idea of a separate self, of separation, of trying to make a distance. For example, the gap between me and others, or between subject object, or now and then, time, or here and there, or an inside and an outside, all these gaps, or like the background consciousness and whatever appears, and what is and what I think it should be. And closing all these gaps to me is awakening, or rather seeing that there were never really gaps, that this was just an idea.
A very, very warm welcome. And today my guest is Sabina Witzel. I'm so happy to meet you. Such an honor. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you very much, Ilona. I'm thrilled to be here.
Wonderful. Um, if you don't know Sabina, she's been a teacher, a guide, helping people through the awakening process for many years now. She also wrote a book in German. And she lives in Germany. She's been doing this work for many years. So she has a lot of experience, and we're going to have a very interesting conversation. So, and to start with, I ask everyone, since we are on Awakening Now podcast, what is your definition of awakening? What are we talking about?
Yeah. The easiest and the hardest question. And if you'd asked me through the decades, I would have given you different answers. But I'd say, first of all, it's not a state. It's not a one-time thing. It's not a thing where you arrive at and fixate or whatever. And it's highly individual, actually. So, and if I'd answer it now, I'd say awakening to me is like closing the gap. And what I mean by that is like there is this idea of a separate self, of separation, of trying to make a distance. For example, the gap between me and others, or between subject object, or now and then, time, or here and there, or an inside and an outside, all these gaps, or like the background consciousness and whatever appears, and what is and what I think it should be. And closing all these gaps to me is awakening, or rather seeing that there were never really gaps, that this was just an idea from the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. And then you just end up in life as it is, as it always was, inseparable, and just a web of like interdependency and yeah, effortless and natural in a way. So that would be my definition nowadays.
That's unique. I never heard that before, but I'm fully with you. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And would you like to share a little bit about your own process? Like maybe not like a whole story, but most pivotal moments, or most biggest shifts, or whatever comes to mind at this point.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been on this path alone. So I didn't have a teacher, a tradition, a guide. And I would say for the first couple of years, I had no idea this had to do with awakening. I had no idea what this was about at all. I just felt like I had booked the roller coaster. It was quite a wild ride. And there were lots of times where I thought I'm going insane, because like, what is this all about? I have no idea. And I realized how important context is. So when we moved here to where I live now in southern Germany, I met friends who were Buddhists. And when I shared my experience there, they nodded. And I was really like amazed. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And they gave me the context. And so I started realizing, oh, wait a minute, this is an awakening process. And so it was in retrospect then seeing what had happened, because I had no framework for that. And I would say one very major shift was just I was sitting for a natural meditation. I'm not a meditator at all,
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, okay, let's sit down and just be. And there was like this field uh coming down, anchoring into the body, and suddenly there all separation was gone. There was no borders, no boundaries, no inside, outside, up and down, and no center in a way. So I didn't know what that was. I saw it as a grid-like structure, transparent. So I'm an energy healer with clairvoyant senses. So this was always very visual. And so yeah, I had no idea what that meant. And I was too stubborn to ask someone, which has a backstory, of course. But I wanted to find out myself what this was. And what happened then is that I I actually made myself jobless because working as an energy healer, I was like channeling energy from above through the body, through the hands to someone else. But now, if you don't have like boundaries of a body, you don't have like me and other, you have no above, and there's not even energy any longer. What to do?
Ah,
So I started experimenting, and trying to find out what that was. So that was a very big shift.
yeah, sounds
Yeah.
like.
And the for example, the boundaries of the body never came back. So that was just gone. And
Hold
I
on.
saw that.
Let me just stop you here. You still
Mhm.
walk through the doors, not bumping into the frame, are you?
Yeah. Well, I try to not. Yeah. Yeah. So the sense of like the image that we modulate onto the sensations to create like the idea of a body. So that was just gone,
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
the image in the mind of the body.
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting. Mhm.
And so there was not a sense of like here the body ends and there the room starts. There was just one seamless sensation in a way. Yeah. And still is. Yeah.
Mm.
And
It's always interesting for me trying to describe these things, putting into words, and it may seem something
yeah.
fascinating, but really it's just so ordinary.
Yes. Yeah. In the end, it is actually whatever is comes up is like, oh wow, there is a distinct before and after.
Mhm.
And it might be quite extraordinary, but then, once that sinks in, at least that's my experience, it's like, no, wait a minute. This has always been like that, and it's actually quite normal. Yeah. And I saw that a couple of months ago, you talked to Pierre Salguero and
Oh
his
yes.
multi-dimensional.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So I came across his map, I think, and him about 2 years ago. And I was curious if I would take his threads of awakening, his perspectives on this process and modulate them on my process when looking back, if they would fit. And
Huh?
it did.
Mhm.
So I can also talk about the shifts from the threads perspective, which is just different perspectives of how someone can experience awakening. And I'd say from the threads perspective, before this really big shift, there had been other shifts. In my early 20s, I had a Kundalini awakening, so which is the energy thread and speaks of itself. And then in my late 20s, I had during an energy session, I was receiving one. I had a heart awakening. So there was like this, everything is one, everything's love. And then there was like this big shift that I just talked about, which had more, I'd say, an emptiness touch, but was mixed with energy and a little flavor of oneness. So it was already a little mixture of several. And in between, there was a 3 year long dark night of the soul, where I really, my life, all the pillars of my life, they crumbled. And I fell into a really long darkness, and again, no one to talk to. And I didn't know if anyone could help me. And I actually wasn't sure if I would get out of it alive. And so I'd say that was like the waking up of the shadow, which is the psyche thread. So
Mm-hmm.
I can find all these, perspectives in the path, and of course they all have their shifts, and they become non-dual at one point, and then they reach their peak, and then at one point you let them go, because they no longer needed to describe or as an extra how you experience everyday life. So yeah.
I'm curious now. Um, so you had your experiences, then you found the model, and then you looked back and put everything like on your path corresponding to these threads, and
Yeah.
then it dropped away.
Yeah,
But
the dropping had already happened,
uh-huh.
or was in the process of, but now I had like context. I had an explanation that seemed fitting, and it was actually quite, I made peace with this rather dynamic and really all over the place process. So they came afterwards, the map came afterwards. Yeah.
It's more like orienting where I
Yeah,
am, where I've been, rather than looking at the map. I need to go here, here, and there, and how
exactly.
to get there. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I now find it just helpful when talking to people, when I feel like they would like some context, or they would like some orientation where they're at, or what could be a next step, or what is just natural in them, trying having someone who has this tendency towards heart opening, or already had, and tell a person to then deconstruct into emptiness just wouldn't make any sense, and probably wouldn't take him anywhere, so just seeing where someone is at, what the natural tendencies are, and then giving maybe some context if needed. And for that, I really find it extremely helpful.
Mm,
Yeah.
nice.
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
about the fetters model? Do you use that too?
Hmm. Yeah, so the fetters are an emptiness thread approach, of course. And I came across the feathers shortly after the subject object had collapsed. And I had met Buddhist friends, and I finally knew this was about awakening. So I started searching the internet for Buddhism, but it was clear that I would not become a Buddhist, that I wouldn't go through all the motions and do all the, whatever rituals and mantras or whatever. I'm just not the type for that. So, and I came across the feathers by Christiane Mickelberger, and she mentioned her guide, Kevin Chanelek.
Yeah.
And I looked into them, but at that point, again, the process didn't quite fit. I hadn't found a map that was really fitting, so they fell aside. And then when that field of awareness that I was in for about like 10 years suddenly dropped, and there was like no sense of existence of I, or a perceiver, or I'm awareness or consciousness or whatever any longer. And that was so radical as to for it was before. I just thought, okay, let's look at the feathers again. And then I contacted Christiana and asked her to have a look at where the process is at and help me, pull out the weeds. And she said it was like the ninth and 10th feather. So, but I told her, no, give me all the feathers, give me all the inquiries. I want to start at feather one because I had been going alone. And of course, with everything, we can bullshit each other, and just, you know, make up stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so I actually went through all the feathers with her. And I really like that approach as well. If you're more like into inquiry, that's a great way to do it. But for people who are more like into, for example, loving kindness or surrender or energy practices, this is probably not a good fit. So again, it's not a one fits all. It's just finding out
Mm-hmm.
what fits the individual. So yes, I'm aware of the feathers. Long answer.
That's cool.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Very helpful too. It all has its pros and cons. I mean, if you're a type that needs structure, that wants to know what is the next step, where exactly do I look at? It's a stage-based model, a stepwise model. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But your process is more fluid and you just do it yourself type and you don't want anyone to tell you what to do next because you want to just keep an open exploration. You don't want to do fixed inquiries or whatever. Then the threads, the multi-dharma is probably more appealing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great to know there are all these options.
Yes. Luckily.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm listening to you and thinking about I haven't followed any maps.
Mhm.
For me personally, it's what comes up. Something
Yeah.
comes up, I'll meet it. I'm all in. But I don't go out and trying to fit my experience in descriptions because I just don't need that. But somebody
Yeah.
else may need that, and it's wonderful to
Mhm.
have these tools.
Yeah. And you mentioned something very important. When there's a tendency in someone, for example, to try to squeeze into a map, to make yourself fit into a map, although your process is running differently, this can really create also crisis. So, yeah. So being with just what's happening is a great way to do it. It's very natural. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah, because otherwise, we can read about other people's ideas and experiences and think that this is how it should be. And that's
Hmm.
why the seeking is so sticky because mostly it's not. Well, it never is. But
Yeah.
it can find something that resonates. It can find something that I can recognize that. But it's never a clear cut picture how it should be.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
there's no how it should be at all.
No, exactly. That's why it's so individual. And I'm more like you. I was just never following any tradition or path or whatever. And yeah, that's why it was so dynamic because of all the different dimensions or flavors of awakening or whatever you want to call it. And but I could also, which is another topic that I really love, is I could also describe my process as uh, when I was in this dark night of the soul and all the really, really deep and unwanted, unseen material was coming up. And I didn't want to see anyone to talk about this. And there was just this natural unfolding of how can I be with all this without resistance, without creating a gap, without making distance to it? Um, no judgment, no resistance. And what I realized then is that everything that was met like that just self-liberated. And so to me, this is another aspect that is part of my work, is like bridging awakening and healing the core wound.
Uh-huh.
And to me, the core wound, many people have talked about the core wound. To me, the core wound is the 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 deepest, darkest shadow, where we seemingly fall out of oneness. There you have like the gap again,
Mm-hmm.
and which creates like a pain, a wound, a wounding. And to me, the transforming or healing or meeting the core wound is like seeing through a separate self, but on a emotional, energetic, and somatic level. And so it's I would say it's a deep shadow work. And when I put that as a lens on my path, I would say yes, it was an awakening in the shadows, a meeting the core wound, and then what went into the process was not the same that came out. What came out was stripped of identity, of separation, of resistance, and was just deeper than woundings, deeper than any separation. So I feel that this also can be a path of awakening and healing at the same time.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, I am with you because awakening and healing the walks together. It's not like
yes.
what people imagine that once I'm awakened, I don't need to feel uncomfortable feelings. I don't need to look inside. It's all going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
surprise, surprise, it's all still here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm so glad you said that, because I rarely hear that people say like they find awakening and healing on the same page. So I really love that you
Interesting.
mentioned.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is what I do. I have two streams like of work, which is pointing to no self
Mhm.
through the direct pointing and asking questions and inquiring, seeing through the
Mhm.
door, seeing through all these identities and identification of what's going on until it's clear. But after
Mhm.
that, what's next is ah, you still feel something contracted, or you still feel this conditioning or reactivity, or what's going on here. It's everything still here. Maybe
Yeah.
after love, honeymoon, or everything is sweet and wonderful for a while. It may be. But then it just everyday life is just showing up more
Mhm.
intensely than ever before.
Yes, exactly. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, perfect. So same here, is two streams that kind of like intertwine. And as you said, like everyday life is just there, and there's no, what I've found, that there is no longer the ability to mitigate that, to step back from it, to twist and turn or tweak, at whatever is arising, and also not the need to do that. And so you're just being with what is, full on, no distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
And it's
And I,
actually difficult to even think how it used to be. Because if I
yes,
if I try to think how it used to be before, I have to wait for the mind to come up with some kind of story, and it's just like, really, to be honest,
yeah,
I don't know. It's gone. So
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I feel the same, awakening then, and all these memories before, and also like the shifts and all that, they become a faint memory. And if I don't talk about them because I'm asked, it's nothing I could find or I'd be even interested in, because it's just everyday life. And yeah, but while it happened, it of course it was significant. Something did happen. And but yeah, then you just, like with everything, it's a fainting story.
Hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And there is no more grip on that story, so it doesn't really matter. It's
Yeah.
not like my precious, my story. I remember that one now, that my story. And he would keep saying some stuff, how it was and what happened and how I felt. And
Yeah.
that's somehow, well, it may come up sometimes, but it's so rare. It's that, wow,
Mhm.
surprising.
Mhm. Yeah, so that might be surprising. People will probably have heard that from you a lot, but those who hear it the first time, it might be surprising to hear that awakening is not something you will keep. It's not a something that you can, stick onto a no self or whatever and say like, yeah, I'll keep this state, this whatever achievement, or it's nothing to keep. It's a process, and then it's normal again. Yeah.
Hmm. Actually, it's quite dangerous to meet somebody who says, "Oh, I'm awake, I'm enlightened. Now I'm there." Listen what I'm saying.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
can be quite dangerous.
Mhm. Yeah. From what I heard from Pierce's sharings is that there are actually traditions that focus on stabilizing, a very at the deep end of the threads, like being in this state 100% all of the time. So kind of like fixating an end state. And yeah, but then there are other traditions like Zen, for example, who like show you end up back in the marketplace and just, carry water, chop wood, carry water, and I really like that this is also being shared and people get to hear that, it's nothing you can keep and there's no need to.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. It's like daily life is happening. You don't need to think about awakening or some
Hmm.
future gratifications or something needs to happen for me to be okay.
Hmm.
I'm okay now. And
Hmm.
yeah, unless unless I'm sitting down and talking to somebody about awakening or guiding somebody, then yes, that's the topic. But
Hmm.
it's not something that even comes to mind when I'm feeding cats or having a walk or
Yeah.
just washing dishes or something.
Yeah, tending my vegetables in the garden, so
Mm.
it really just doesn't come up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so for some people that's quite a downer, like I thought I'd end up in endless bliss and whatever forever without any problems. And yeah, so they might then think like, so why should I even embark on a journey like this if I don't, achieve this or that? Yeah, well, it's nothing you can have. On the other hand, I find if there is like a real urge, if there's some fire, force, or whatever that's driving this process, whatever this process is, uh, I wouldn't also try to tell people don't do it, don't embark on this journey. So if there is really a fire, I'd say tend it, and follow the breadcrumbs wherever they take you. Yeah.
I remember that one, the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was big fire.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah. Same here. And whatever that is, I mean, we could philosophize about this, but I don't I have an idea what that is, this fire. But at one point, it was totally clear that it was without option. There
Mhm.
was no stepping back. You have no hand on any steering wheel. Something bigger or whatever has taken over, and you better go with the flow or surrender to that or whatever feels natural. So, at one point, where before it might have felt like, well, I can say yes to it or no to it. It's just no longer an option.
Mm-hmm.
At least how it was here, you know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. When the fire comes in and you want to know the truth or
Hmm.
what you are, it has to complete itself to play itself out.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
which is really good news because if you're in the process, trust the process. It's happening.
Yes. Yes. And then what I find interesting when talking to people who have come from very different arenas, very different traditions, and if they've gone through the feathers or released threads or whatever they've done, it sounds all very similar. So that's what I find interesting. So whatever fire seems to be doing its magic, it knows the way. And yeah, it turns out to be fine, although it can feel quite challenging along the way. It was here, and then it will turn out fine. So yes, trust the process, and it will be fine. And bumpy, and scary,
Yeah. And
and
messy.
wonderful, and messy. Oh yes, and beautiful, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. So I haven't really answered the question about all the different shifts, but you know, um, that would be like an evening filling topic. So let's just say in a general sense, um, there can be glimpses here and there, and they might feel like they're happening to me and they are happening here. I'm having this or that awakening experience. I'm having a Kundalini awakening. I'm having a heart awakening or whatever. And then when the process or the thread uh, continues, this becomes more impersonal and less localized, I would say. And then at one point, this ultimate gap of like subject and object will collapse and it becomes really non-dual then. And then the different flavors of like time, space, if we look at it from the federal perspective, can fall away. And then at one point, even the one who is experiencing energy, emptiness, oneness, or whatever, is seen through and disappears. And so there's just nothing able to stand apart from sound, sensation, or whatever. So whatever flavor the viewer's awakening has, this is, I would say, a common theme that will come up. Probably not in a linear phase, but in the end, it will boil down to that. I don't know what do you think about this? So can we generalize it like that, or how do you see this?
Mm. I think it's complicated to generalize it because
Mhm.
it's just an idea.
Yes, of course.
And
Of course.
and if somebody is listening and already picking up ideas, because from the seeker perspective,
Mhm.
whatever whatever is being seen on any videos of people talking about this is how it should be. Or this is what
Yes.
I'm aiming for. This is what I'm looking for. But
Mhm.
it's always here in experience. So generalizing from my perspective is never helpful. It's more what's true for you in your own experience.
Yes. Yes.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what's going on for other people, whatever maps they are drawing or whatever experiences they are describing,
Mhm.
it's true for them. But
Yeah.
the thing is, what is here? And that is enough. And this is exactly right. And you are right in the right place. And you're okay. And what's here?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. It's a real danger to, first of all, take this as like, this is how it should be for me, and turn it into a fixed state or territory or whatever. I'd rather see it as if someone is right now unsure of where to orient to or whatever. You could, for example, if we take my metaphor of like closing the gap, you could have a look at like right now with how I'm here. Am I creating distance, for example?
Oh,
Um,
can we go with something concrete? Because I think that would be helpful for whoever is watching. This
yeah,
the sense of separate self,
yes.
because this is at the core of the whole thing.
Mhm,
Because if there is a sense of separate self, I am separate. It's not
mhm,
being seen as a sensation or as an
mhm,
idea or as a contraction.
mhm.
It's being seen as I'm separate. So
Yeah.
how do you work with that? Let's
Mhm.
play with this.
Okay. How do I work with that? Yeah, I would, at first, I would have them find the difference between what they are thinking, what is happening, and what is really happening. So bringing them back to the body and what is being experienced right now, and then seeing what the mind adds to that as a interpretation, as a analysis or meaning making. And by that, and feeling the difference of like, how does it feel to really experience, for example, drinking their cup of tea?
I see.
Yeah, great. So just what is actually being experienced and what is being added by thought. And does that experience feel different when when there's just the taste and the touch of the glass and the taste of the tea and the smell of the peppermint or whatever it was, and how does it feel experiencing that plus all the narrative? I'm drinking a cup of tea. This is the cup of my grandmother. I like this tea because I don't like it because, all the add-ons. And if that feels different, and once they feel a difference, it's easier to see how much the mind actually adds to what is here, what is being experienced. And then in the next step, just seeing that these are just ideas. They're just concepts, just thoughts, and nothing else. And actually it's not even remotely close to what it's being experienced. It's a fantasy, you know. And so I see this as a first step of like disidentifying with thoughts or the need to believe in thoughts,
Mhm.
and to grab thoughts and to follow them, and act on them, and creating a useful gap, you know, between what is happening and what is the mind adding. Yeah. So that would be an entrance, I would say. And then depending on where someone is in the process, just seeing what feels fixated, what feels tense. Is there an identity built around the feeling that is in the body? And when I zoom into the body and up close to the sensation, is there really a me experiencing that, for example, and all these things. So there's neat explorations that can be done, which are more like the emptiness thread, I would say. Or if that's not the cup of tea of someone listening. For example, if I would ask someone, where do you sense the feeling of this is me? And very often people have like a place in the body, like the forehead or the heart or the gut or whatever. And of
Mostly
course,
behind the eyes, isn't it?
behind the eyes, yes, there's
Yeah.
someone here
Mm-hmm.
looking out. And of course, you could then zoom in and see, is there really an eye in the sensation? It's the emptiness thread, I would say. But you could also like zoom in there and then see, is this an area that is more dense like other areas in the head? And it probably is, and it feels more contracted. And then seeing, sensing, it's more like a sensing exploration. Is there really a separation between the spot that is 5 inches next to it and this area? Do you really find like a border? Do you really find a separation in there?
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing, do you really find a separation between the border of the body that you might be experiencing and the space surrounding you? And so this is more like an oneness thread approach, like on a sensing level, finding and experiencing that there is actually no border or separation anywhere. And this often opens up into a sense of expansion. Many people land in awareness, like this open space in which all of this is happening. Of course, this is not the end, but it's a good stop. it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a it's a stop along the way. So you could explore like that as well, if you're not into the emptiness inquiry, for example. Yeah. I'm just thinking if I could come up with something in the energy thread. Yeah. Uh, if there's a sense of like me is a contraction. There's something in the body or the whole body as is a contraction or is like a subtle pushing against something that I don't want, that is too overwhelming, or a pulling into like a safe space or whatever. Again, starting with like going to direct experience in the body and then seeing what I'm experiencing there as a tension, as something fixed, something seemingly unchangeable, as a I
Mm-hmm.
that is constantly existing. Is this really static? Is this really uh, not dynamic? And coming to it from an energetic level for someone who already has, like, for example, a natural tendency of feeling energies in the body, feeling energies outside the body, or even just energy fields or whatever. So an exploration like that could be quite fruitful, seeing everything that feels static and dense and fixed uh, is a fixation, actually. And is it really so? Or is this also energy?
Mm-hmm.
Then it can become very individual, the exploration, depending on what tendency someone has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very nice.
Mm.
Yeah. I think when I first approached that question, how do I know I'm separate? I mean, where's the proof?
Mhm. Mhm.
Which sensation informs me about something being separate or cut out or outside of life or outside somewhere? Like, where is that dividing line? And when I saw that there was no dividing line, there was just an idea. Like
Mhm.
inside, outside, it's just an idea. There is no line in experience. And then this sense of separateness is just a sense or sensation inside the experience. It was
Mhm.
so funny to see that.
Yeah, it's a great
Like,
approach. Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. hmm Yeah, and then what I like about all these different approaches is that you don't think about them. It's not about like, how am I making sense of that? It's not about intellectually understanding this, but really looking in your experience. Is that really true? Is that really there? Or is it just an idea? And it's very interesting that actually all of it is just an idea, all of it.
Only.
And then at times it when whole chunks of these ideas, this fixating like fantasies drop away, it can feel quite overwhelming. And I sometimes hear people like, I feel I'm my life, what will happen? Will my life
Mhm.
turn into chaos? Can I function if all of this is just thought and there's no me in here? And how will it function? And the funny thing is, it always functioned on its own because it was just a fantasy. I mean, it's a good news.
Yes, it's great
Yes.
news.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Mm.
remember one woman in one of my workshops, she had, like, I would say, like, the mind just dropped out. It sounds funny, but I can't describe it differently. The thinking mechanism just broke for a moment, and she was just there, and she was very identified with her thoughts, and she was stopping in her tracks, and she was like, I didn't want that. How am I going to function? How will I go down the stairs even? And I said, just make a step. You come towards me. Just come here. And she made a step because I said, come here. And she just naturally made a step forward. And I said, that's how you get down the stairs. That's how you got down the stairs before. So everything works fine. you know. Of course, at times, really, I must add that at times it can feel dysfunctional, but
Uh,
uh, yeah, if it's not too dragged out too long, it will very easily just integrate, and you find out, yeah, even the idea this could not function was just an idea. So
I had this experience. I was walking down the road, and it's like a busy road, cars passing by. And I was really curious, how is that this body is walking? I mean, one leg, another leg, it's just walking. And I was contemplating that and just watching that, how it's working. And then suddenly I fell. I was like, ouch. But when I felt like I rolled a little. So I didn't hurt myself at all. It was just a little
good.
shock, like, oh, it can't forget how to walk, but it knows how to roll. It knows how to fall. So it's all right.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, things like that can really happen. I remember when the center had dropped out, we were in a car with my husband. He was driving, luckily, because I could no longer say if I was sitting inside the car, beside the car, if I was moving with the car, or if the other cars were moving through me or whatever. It was quite scary for a moment, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever that is. And so, when these perceptual shifts happen, this can be quite challenging and also fascinating.
Hmm.
And that's one part which I find is happening very often. Not only the shifts in identity, that the idea I'm a separate self changes, also like the perception changes depending on the threads, if we talk about multidharma again. And yeah, and also how you see the world changes depending on where you are in the process right now. So, but that all will integrate and normalize and become like the new normal.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
when someone is having a rough time driving, or whatever, maybe, yeah, drive carefully. I remember that I still today, I have no sense of how fast I drive, uh, and of distance in some way. I've always been a very cautious driver, driving rather slow. And since I don't have a sense of, moving or speed or whatever, when I look at how fast I'm going, I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, well, you get used to it. You just check the chrono, just check the what do you call it? I don't know. And so you will be fine. Yeah. Or when the energy thread was very active, I had a few weeks of like blurred vision because everything that seemed static in the visual field started disintegrating and becoming energy. And it was just like dimensions interfacing with each other, or like light points or pixelating visions and all these things. And I went to the eye doctor and I said something's wrong with my ears, with my eyesight. And she checked it and she said, no, actually your sight is better than the last time you were here. And
Ah,
so it was just a moment where like the energy thread started to dissolve everything into energy, and doing that with the senses, for
mm,
example. And so
very
this
interesting.
was blurred and all that. So yeah.
It doesn't need to happen to everyone though, I think.
No, no.
But you are like psychic or clairvoyant
Mhm.
naturally. So
Yeah.
how does that
Yeah.
help working with people?
Yeah, it helps. Actually, it helps. And funny thing is, actually, the clairvoyant senses changed a lot and quite dramatically during the awakening process, because the shifts were also like visual in like I sense and hear and smell and see and feel things. So for example, when the emptiness thread was on top, for the first time in my life, my clairvoyant senses were black. There was nothing.
Mm.
Even perception was black. So there was no inner seeing. There was no dimension, other dimensional seeing or whatever. It was all gone. And it's the basis of my work. So again, I was without a job. And it actually, yeah, I did that a couple of times actually. And then after, I think this time it took almost 2 years. And then they came back in a different way now, because all the frameworks that were needed. For example, I started before I was seeing everything transparent, everything was a field. The person was transparent. I could zoom in and zoom out. And when the field fell away, perception was black, because it was the idea that it needed a field to be seen. And then when the clairvoyant seeing came back, it's right there. It's very immediate. It's I would say even more precise, but it no longer needs a field, for example. It no longer needs the meaning making or the ontologies or whatever. It's just something's coming up. It's seen. The body knows what to do. It's doing its motion when I work. And it works fine. But in between, it was all gone, actually. Yeah.
Fascinating. It's
Mhm. For
such
the
a
first,
mystery, isn't it? Uh, yeah. Try to describe it or try to pinpoint something and just,
yeah.
yeah, okay, we get a story, which is cool. But
Yes.
now you
Yes.
describe this, I have no idea how that feels. And what can I do? Nothing.
No, absolutely nothing. It's just like when
Mm.
people seem to experience something like that, for example, and they hear that, it can be helpful. And it can, be giving necessary context so they can relax, into whatever's there. And yeah, so that might be helpful. I think that's the helpful part about the stories.
Yeah, yeah. Because in stories, we recognize something, a little bit of
Yeah.
ourselves. And for
Yes.
some, it resonates. For others, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. But if
Yeah.
somebody is listening and they can hear what you shared and say, oh, I'm okay. Wow.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's not
Yeah. And
right. Oh, wow.
yes,
Cool.
I'm okay. I'm
Good.
not crazy. Yeah. And they also hear like, it will be fine. you know.
And it is fine.
Yeah. Exactly. It is fine already, wherever you are.
And maybe it seems like it's not fine, but you will know. We don't need to listen to that voice in the head because it's just
Yeah.
talking. It's been trained to talk something, anything, just fill the gap.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's multifaceted, multidimensional. It's very colorful and very individual, and like you said earlier, trust the process, and yeah, see where it takes you. Yeah. Hmm.
Mm. Okay, Sabina. Our hour is finishing. Um, how can people find you and how do you work? Do you work with groups, one-on-one, retreats? What do you do?
All of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a website, Sabina dash, no, not dash, minus Witzel.com. Maybe you can put it in the description.
Mhm.
It's maybe a difficult name to type. Yeah, I give one-on-one sessions in German and in English, and I do groups and also retreats. I'm more expanding into like the online field because I've been largely working with people in person a couple of last decades.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, but now since the word is spreading a little bit more, I'm also working like online. So yeah, if anything resonates, I have a YouTube channel that you can check out German and English videos, and yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you for joining me. It's such a pleasure, such a nice feeling to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching and for listening. And if you have questions, comments, please just leave a note and we'll get back to you. Till next time. Bye now.